America's ready to get back to work. New economy, going to be difficult. Smart companies run by NetSuite by Oracle, the world's #1 cloud business system. Receive your free guide right now, netsuite.com/herd, netsuite.com/HERD. Well, he's part of The Odd Couple, the fastest growing radio show in America, sports talk radio show, a Fox Sports contributor, the instigator. He gets people worked up. Rob Parker actually was an NBA beat writer during the Jordan era. He covered the Jordan shot over Craig Elo, the Pippen migraine game, Eastern Conference Final against the Pistons. So Rob Parker's been doing this a long time, and he joins us now via the Coward Global Satellite Network. All right, let's start with this. Your big takeaway on the 10-part Jordan documentary. Your big takeaway is what?
Colin, before it started, Chris Broussard and I talked about this, and I said I thought that Michael Jordan would have way more fans after this thing ended because it put his career in context. There's a lot of millennials, a lot of Generation X and Zs or whatever who only watched the YouTube games. There was no context to it. And when you saw what he went through, what he battled through in order to become a champion, and how people doubted him early on. He didn't flee Chicago. Colin, you know this. Chicago was a terrible sports town when he showed up. The Cubs hadn't won in 100 years. The Blackhawks were terrible. The Bears were the only good team in that town. They had won a Super Bowl. But other than that, it was a bad sports town, and the Bulls were a terrible organization. And Michael, look at what he did to it. He turned it around. He didn't leave after 7 years and go, I want to go to New York and play with Patrick Ewing so I can sell more sneakers from New York. He did his own thing, and I think people saw that. They saw the way that he was beat up going to the paint against the Pistons and the Knicks. They saw the way the reporters came after Michael Jordan when some scandals and stuff was out there. Man, he did not have an easy ride, and he rose above it all to become the greatest player of all time.
There are suggestions by LeBron in the last 24 hours that he would play beautifully with Michael Jordan. What do you make of that?
I think that's wishful thinking. LeBron, I get it. He wants to get into the conversation. You know why, Colin? He just got crushed. He just got crushed by this documentary. Did you see that ESPN poll where they had 17 categories and Michael won all 17? I mean, some of them LeBron should have won and he lost those. I don't know. I mean, I don't see those two guys the same, or, they're not the same player, but I don't see them playing together. Michael wants to do his thing. LeBron is ball dominant. He wants the ball, has to have the ball all the time. I don't see it. I think it's easier to say that. I'm not so sure it would work.
You covered the Pistons. Michael sometimes came off as tough against Isaiah Thomas. Some said petty. I would think as somebody who covered Detroit side of things, and you saw Detroit beat Jordan for years, you saw Jordan as completely beatable. Like, I would think you would be not as in awe of Michael.
No, I do look at it from a standpoint of it was a progression. Like he was starting out, he couldn't get past them, and then eventually did. So I saw his career develop where he couldn't get past them to finally getting there, and that's what I appreciate. The Isaiah stuff and the stuff he has with the Pistons, I'm 30 years later still shocking to me that he still holds that grudge on the Pistons. But they were legitimate champions. They made it a tough road for Michael Jordan. They're the ones who I think made him the player that he wound up being because he had to get bigger, get stronger. He had to fight through things. It wasn't like a cakewalk. People didn't go, he's the next star, so let's step aside and let Mike take over. It didn't go like that. Even going back to his first All-Star game, Colin, when he had 8 points and the freeze-out game, where they didn't want to pass him the ball. I think the Pistons helped Michael Jordan become the player that he became.
Scottie Pippen doesn't like how he's portrayed. What do you make of his portrayal?
Scottie Pippen should look in the mirror. All this stuff is true. I get it. there was a lot of bad Scotty in that documentary, from a guy who was selfish to wait to get surgery, who signed a terrible contract when his agents told him don't do it, a guy who wouldn't go into a game and let his teammates down. So all that stuff, there's nothing that was made up. I understand why, because when you look at it, I'm sure Scotty, for the first time, seeing it in living color, was like, man, that was pretty lame. Hello, that was pretty bad. But I don't think they did him any injustice. I thought all the stuff there was real.
What do you make of Michael playing with today's players? People are saying he's too rough. Guys are skinny jeans. They get offended by mean tweets. They couldn't play with Michael. What do you make of that?
I think that they could play with Michael. I don't believe in that. I think that his tactics and the way he went about his business wouldn't be accepted today. Colin, things are different. And calling people the H word and the B word and all that kind of stuff, it just wouldn't be tolerated. And Michael would have to adapt the way people have to adapt when things change. But talking about playing with the guy, all you have to do is look at the Steve Kerr story. I think that tells you about Michael Jordan and Michael, making him eventually want to fight Michael Jordan and then being able to pass that guy the ball in the biggest spot. And when you watch that video, and it's incredible video where he's talking to Steve Kerr on the bench, and he's saying, Steve, be ready. They're going to double. Be ready. I'm going to give you the ball. You're going to be open. I mean, this is not like some wise tale. This is they got the video of it. It's incredible. And that's why I think, look at, if anything, nobody wants to play with LeBron. I mean, Paul George turned him down twice. Kawhi Leonard would have had an easy street to come to L.A. to play with AD and LeBron with the Lakers. He turned that down. Kyrie Irving won a championship with LeBron, asked for a trade. And the only guy who was able to come play with him was like a star. And nobody wanted to come to Cleveland. That's why he went to Miami. And AD, that was an agent thing because he signed with LeBron's agent and whatnot. So in reality, nobody wants to play with LeBron. I don't think that's the case with Michael Jordan, no matter what Channing Frye says. I'm calling him Channing Small Fry because I'm not buying that.
Why do you think people don't want to play with LeBron?
I think they understand. You know what? It's this whole thing. LeBron and the minions that he has, they call him the GOAT, Colin. So if he doesn't win, you become the scapegoat because it's not going to be LeBron's fault. So how do you win? If they win, it's about LeBron. If they lose, his minions go, well, he don't have anybody. Well, look at his teammates. They're no good. They're old. They're tired. It's always about somebody else. And I think that's why it's not attractive. There's nothing to gain by playing with LeBron.
That's really interesting. I don't think you're necessarily wrong on that. And I don't think you're wrong on that. Jerry Krause is the villain. I think he antagonized people. I don't think you should speak ill of the dead, but I think people criticized Jerry Krause when he was living, so I don't think they should have to apologize now that he's not living, and I do think he was antagonizing people. What did you make of him getting, crushed in the dock?
He was a good general manager, very good one. There's no doubt about it when you look at some of his moves. But here's the one, Colin, that people can't escape. When you tell somebody Phil Jackson, who's won you championships, is not coming back, even if he goes 82-0, you got to wear that. You have to wear that. What general manager in their right mind would X out a coach who's won you championships and tell him no matter what he does, he's not coming back? That's the ultimate ego. That's a guy who's not comfortable with what's going on, needs more attention, and that's why I think he gets crushed. Because that quote and that statement alone makes absolutely no sense from a general manager standpoint if you've had success with the guy. And remember, he's the one who handpicked Phil Jackson and brought him along. So he should have been a part of the success of it and not be so worried about getting, general managers just don't get a lot of accolades and stuff. They just don't. They mostly get it when they do a bad job. It's about the coach. It's about the star player. It's just not about the general manager.
30 seconds to a minute left. You're old school guy. I would imagine you loved Michael even more after this documentary.
Absolutely. I think you got to see Michael Jordan, who he is. Yes, he can be petty. Yes, he can be mean spirited, but the dude gave you his all, wanted to win at all costs. That's what we're missing. Everybody calling his buddy. Come work out with me. Let's go on vacation together. I'm not saying you can't be somewhat friendly, but on the court, it should be about trying to win. I always say sports has a short menu, wins and losses. And Michael Jordan won. And that's what it's about. That's what we revel in. That's why he's crushed LeBron in all these polls now. LeBron has 6 losses in the finals. Michael has 0. And nothing better than perfect.
Rob Parker, part of the Odd Couple. He doesn't get out much. You basically have been in your, the very good, Rob. Really appreciate.
So, even in my apartment, I have to wear this.
Rob, we appreciate your thoughtfulness. He said he goes out once a day, and I'm not going to tell you where he goes, but he goes and gets a Diet Coke from a little fast food place. Very safe. Thank you, Rob Parker. He's a real, look at that.
Thanks, Colin.
Look at that. Very, very mindful and thoughtful Rob Parker. Whether you are working from home or working on the road, you want to hear your music, not your roommates. 15% off Raycon's wireless earbuds. 15% off. Go to Raycon.